That's good. So can you still see my screen?
Yes, sir, we can see your screen.
Okay, that's good. So that's good. So I want to start my presentation. So a little bit of introduction, and we'll start from there. And I will be as brief as possible, even though I have a lot to say, and I would like to listen to questions and to hear what you think of this and what you want me to clarify if there is anything to clarify at the end of this presentation. So, what I'm talking about today is about managing engineering final year projects. And my name is Ibrahim Gbadegesin. So, I am an ambassador for MATLAB. I am an engineer. I work in both computer science and electrical engineering space. So, I have my background in electrical engineering. But these days, I work more into artificial intelligence, computer vision, and I work for MathWorks. So I help them to promote MATLAB and Simulink across Nigeria and beyond. So that's me, and that's what I do. So I have experience working on a lot of projects. So most of what I'll be talking about will be based on my own experience as to how I go about projects and how I go about final year project and how I will advise you to think about the project as as students. So this is like the first slide I have. So the essence of my presentation is to give a practical guide for undergraduate and final year students. So I am assuming majority of my listeners are practically undergraduates and final year students, and that's going to affect how I'm going to present this presentation. So this is me in the picture. This is an outline of what I want to say. So I have 15 things to say, 15 headlines, and I have a final advice to give about final year project. So this is my face in case you meet me along the road. So I want to talk about why it matters, understanding the nature of projects, how to choose the right topic, defining clear objectives and scope, planning and management, working with supervisors because some of them can be very mean, some of them can be very friendly, some of them can be very jovial. So, how do you work with reviewing literatures and strategies, defining methodologies, implementation and experimentation, data analysis and results, report writing tips, presentation and defense preparation, common mistakes to avoid, ethics and academic integrity, then skills gained, and then a final piece of advice for everybody listening. So the first thing I will talk about is like why final year project matters. And sometimes it looks like this lecturer is just trying to stress the hell out of us. Why all this problem? Some people are having it easier. I can use AI to solve it. Those are things that I hear students say about projects. And I always want to have these questions answered. So for me, I think final year project is like a bridge between the theory that you've learned in the last 4 years before your final year and the real world practice. So the school or the supervisor wants you to bring all those theory to bear into a real world problem that you can solve, maybe designing something, implementing something. So all the courses you've done, the theoretical underlinings of those courses will influence how you are going to approach this so-called project that kind of will make a real world problem and makes you not just a theoretical engineer but a practical engineer that can solve real world problem. And that's the first reason why final project is important. The second one is like it kind of builds you into problem solving and research skills. You try to find things, you try to solve problems. So you solve a lot of problems in the process. Another important fact is like it prepares you for industry or postgraduate study. In industry, everything is a project. Let's say, if I'm an example, I am an engineer working in Dangote refinery. My task could be they want to work on this project which is expanding this particular line of business. It's a project. So project doesn't end in school. Project is like life itself. Everything turns out to be a project as you go on. So some of the principles you learn from handling for your final year projects kind of is going to go into other ways in which you handle other projects in life also. So that's why it's very, very important because this project prepare you for the industry and also for postgraduate study in case you are interested in research writing papers, publications. All of these things are also project driven case studies. And the last one is like it influences your final degree classification. Because your final year projects, you do it first semester, you do it second semester, it adds a lot of weight to your degree. So let's say you're in second class upper and you want to make a first class, the result you get in your final year project is very, very important in making you in that particular grade that you want. So if you are interested in the grades, you cannot joke with your final year project. So those are four key reasons why you should take your final year project seriously and the things that you might be able to learn from your final year project. And the next thing I want to talk about is like understanding the nature of a final year project. And it's a question that you need to ask yourself at the beginning of your project. What is the nature of what I want to do? Because sometimes it is not like you don't know what you're doing, it's just like you just don't know the nature of what you want to do or what the expectation of the lecturer is. So project differs. For example, if you are working on a research-based project, it's different from when you are working on a design-based project. You will get that from your interaction with your supervisor. If he just wants you to go and do research about this, compare with A and B, it's different from when he wants you to build something and do a design of something. You want to see something physical. He wants you to manipulate things and make them work physically, or he wants you to do simulation and show results. There are two different approach, and you have to know which category your project falls in, or if your project involves both of them, it's going to define that. If it's a research-based approach, you need to show research-based results. If it's a design-based approach, you have to show practical results. You have to deliver something. You have to show that this is working. You have to go there on regular basis to demo what you do. So the mindset is also very, very important. So if you are doing a design-based project, you have to be seeing your supervisor and be showing results almost immediately. So that's how he is going to know that you are making progress with your work. And another question, another thing that is also important is like, is it an individual or a group project? Because I realize that in projects, sometimes supervisor might decide to group you with some set of people to work on a similar project together. And your participation and contribution within that group is going to influence how you present the project or how you even handle the project together. From my own industrial and practical experience, oftentimes it's always like 80-20 rule, and people find it very, very shocking. What happens is that sometimes when you are in a group of 4 or 5 working on a project, maybe 20% of you will do 80% of the work. Some people will just be lackadaisical, some people will not commit time, some people are not going to be serious, some people will just believe that you guys already know it, you guys will do it, and they will do it. So oftentimes, make sure you are within the 20% of people that will do the work, and oftentimes it's going to show, and your supervisor is going to take note of that, and it's going to reflect in your grades. So because it's group work doesn't mean you are going to do less work, you have to still commit to doing great work. So whether be it individual or a group project, you have to make sure that you put in the time to do a good work for your final year project. Another thing that is also important to you to know is like, is your project a long-term project or a self-directed project? Sometimes your supervisor has been working on a project for a long period of time. What you are doing is just a continuation. So with that, it means that you have to ask questions to say, sir, what am I to work on? How does it, what have you worked on before? So you have to know that, okay, you are continuing a line of project and your result is supposed to work in a particular direction. If it's a self-directed project, meaning that it's up to you to decide all the facts, you have to also know that. So knowing all of this influences how you are going to approach the project, the kind of questions you'll be asking your supervisor or your mentors. So that's also important. Another thing is that it requires technical, analytical, and soft skills. So oftentimes I realize that we have smart students, but they don't know how to interact with supervisors. They don't know how to present results properly. They don't know how to communicate with them. They don't know how to read the room and as to when to present a result or when to tell them that they cannot deliver on that particular milestone. So you still need a lot of technical, analytical, and soft skills to be able to handle your final year project. So all of these things are very, very peculiar to the nature of the project that you are doing. So it is very, very important, especially for example, if your supervisor is not physically present in the office, you have to find non-technical soft skills to be able to interact with that person so that he can still supervise you effectively. So you must tell him exactly what the issue is, where you need him to come in, and what you've achieved and what you plan to do. All of that must be communicated. Another thing that is also important is as you are communicating, ensure you are documenting it to him, be it WhatsApp or be it mail, so that sometimes when he wants to do the grading, he'll be like, this boy, what did this boy even do in this project? If he doesn't have any evidence, you just go and check maybe your WhatsApp chat. Say, oh, this guy, he has been working. I can see what the things he has done, and all of that together, I may be able to give a good grade for you. But if he doesn't have any trail of evidence, you only meet him randomly, you might not really have good long memory like you worked really well on your project, and that might also affect your grade. So all of that is very, very important in getting good grades, getting your lecturer to understand what you are doing, and be able to have a good final year project. So the next thing I want to talk about is choosing the right topic. So this is very, 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 very skeptical. So because sometimes what happens is like you might have a project in mind and your supervisor just want have a project in mind. So you have to be able to navigate it properly. There are times whereby your supervisor already has the things he wants to commit in the year. And I would advise if it's still within something that you can still accommodate, try to do the project that your supervisor is involved in. Why? Because he's already committed to it. Maybe he has one or two publications he wants to have in that area. So if you key into that, your work will be faster. Is already interested and genuinely interested in the field, you don't need a lot of push to make him get interested in your project. But if you're introducing a project that's personal to you, sometimes it might be a lot of work for you to get your supervisor to like maybe be particularly interested in the work. Maybe he's not really interested in the work. So you see it in the body language of your supervisor. So our advice, you look into that. So it's all about aligning your interests with the career goals of both your supervisor and you. For example, if you plan to go a particular direction, robotics, machine learning, AI, try to make sure that your project aligns in that direction. It's going to influence you and it's going to help you go forward. So you have to know where you are going also in life and also where your supervisor is going. Another thing is like sometimes your supervisor will tell you that go and bring any topic. What I advise people to do at that point is like go online, go on Google Scholar, find the name of that lecturer and the university is that is actually lecturing. Go and check his last publications, like 3 or 5 publications. You see the areas in which the man is constantly publishing. So if you want to come up with your topic, try to frame your topic around that area. When you present to him, there is 98% chance he's going to accept it. But if you go and present something that he's not interested in, he will just be supervising you like that, and you won't really get the best out of him. So that's that about choosing the right topic. It's a mixture of what you want and what the supervisor wants. But oftentimes, if you key into what the supervisor wants, you will be able to get his interest more in the project, and you might be able to even get publications from it because he's genuinely interested in it, and you really get a lot from the supervisor. So those are the things I wanted to talk about when choosing the right project. Another thing also important is about like you have to avoid vague topics, which is important. You have to think about what do you have available and the expertise of your supervisor. You can't be talking about advanced quantum computing if your supervisor is not in that field. It might be too difficult. You might not get the technical backing you need for that kind of project. Another thing is like you have to think about the feasibility of time and resource constraints. For example, second semester is when the bulk of the project goes in, but second semester is always very short. So you have to think about what can you do, how many weeks do you have left, and which project can you fully finish in due time for within the time that you have left. So also all of that should influence the right topic that you are going to choose for your final year project. Another thing that is also very, very important is like when you have a topic and your supervisor gives you a go ahead to say, I think this topic is good, you have to be very, very smart. For example, some supervisors have a way of getting you to like get very big objectives. You have to do A, B, C, D, E, F. You have to find a way in which you can clarify the objectives that you want, define smart objectives, clearly state the project boundaries. What are you going to do and what are you not going to do? Let it be clear. In fact, write it down and send it to him and pin it down to him so that along the line, won't say, I thought you are going to do A to Z. You could easily tell him that, sir, you said I should do A to B, and I've done A to B. And at that point in time, you can easily go scot-free. But if you don't define the boundaries early, what happens is that when you do A to B and your supervisor say, yeah, you are still going to Z, and it keeps expanding the project for you, and it looks like you've not done well. And at some point in time, if you feel tired and you stop putting in effort, the supervisor might just say you are not serious and you didn't finish your work, and eventually it might also affect your grades. So from the get-go, make sure you define the objectives for the work, the boundaries that you have with the project, the expected outcomes and deliverable. What does it want? Does it want you to present a simulation? Does it want you to present an hardware? What does it want to see that is going to give you 100% mark? All of that you need to know as you are interacting or thinking about your project or interacting with the lecturer. So they might not tell you explicitly, but you have to ask questions and figure out how to be able to get those insights from your supervisor. Another thing that is also important is planning, because oftentimes project goes along with other things, extracurricular activities, religious activities. So you have to plan time for your project. And for me, I think it's all about breaking the project down into proposal, design, implementation, testing, and the reports. Oftentimes, it's also good to have like a timeline that you've defined for your work. And also, too, you have to set milestones for yourself. What do I plan to achieve this week? What do I plan to achieve next month? And carry your supervisor along in the process. And as much as possible, start early and avoid last minute rush. For me, I also have this experience, especially for people working on electrical engineering projects. There's always this issue of defining the project and trying to get hardware in the last minute. And once you get the hardware in the last minute, you order it from maybe China or US, and it takes maybe 2 weeks to come, and you be delayed. And your last minute, a day to your defense, you are trying to connect one board and one electronics got burnt, and you don't have something to present. All of that comes from last minute rush. So as much as possible, avoid last minute rush when you do your when you plan for your project. Working effectively with supervisors is all about scheduling regular meetings. If you are going to be meeting every Friday, have it in mind that every Friday or 10 a.m. I'm going to meet him. So if you have that scheduled already, so you know, so that at this point in time, I need to meet him, I will need to see results. So he's not calling you every time like Monday morning, where are you? Tuesday morning. No, you already have an agreement that I'll be coming every Friday to talk about my project. And every Friday, always make sure you have something to talk about, something new to show that you are making progress with your project. So you have to come prepared with progress and updates, not just stories. Nobody wants to hear stories, so you have to show commitment that you are working. And sometimes you do have bottlenecks, meaning you are trying to do something, you could not get it done. So before that Friday, maybe on Wednesday, you can tell him that, sir, I'm having issues with this, and I don't think I'll be able to make up with what I said I'm going to deliver on Friday. It might assist you along the way. So if you think that result, you won't be able to get a result on say Friday that you normally meet, communicate upfront and let him see a way in which he can help you out, such that by that Friday you can still have something to show, instead of coming on Friday to say, sir, I could not do anything. It's just like stories. So those are some of the things that you need to look at. Another thing is also important is like the feedback of the lecturer. What does he want? Is he saying you should go this direction? Is he saying you should go this direction? Is he interested in your approach, or does he want a specific approach in mind? You have to listen to the nuances of the lecturer, their body language, their feedback as you work on your project. Then also too, that is also important is you have to document all discussions and decisions. For example, if you agree to go a particular direction, document it. It's going to help you out when you are writing reports. Oftentimes, when you are writing your report, it's often going to clash with when you want to do your exams, tests, and all other things, especially towards the end of the program. You might not remember everything. So, but if you document very well, writing your report will be easier because you'll be putting all those documentation together. It can be a WhatsApp documentation, it can be a document, it can be a note. You can just put all of those things together to be able to write your report when the time comes. So all of that is going to influence your grade because they're going to read the reports. And so oftentimes it is whatever they read, they're going to grade. So you have to make sure that there is evidence of your act of your work in what the graders are going to read. So you have to make sure that as much as you are putting in a lot of work to get the results, you're also documenting it properly, well typed, well formatted, so that you can get the right mark that you deserve. Literature review strategies. Lecturers will talk to you more about this, but you have to use credible sources, you have to compare existing solutions, you have to identify research gaps, you have to use reference managers, Mendeley, Sotero, all of these things. You can go and do your research about them. Methodology development. This is up to the supervisor, and as you work together, you have to ask him which method does he want you to use. This is like where the supervisor will really have a say in what you do. which kind of tool should you use? Should you use Python and MATLAB? You have to ask your supervisor all of this, justifying your method. Your supervisor can say, try this, try that, and when you try that, you have to get your results and say, when we try this, we got this, when we try this, we got that. Include models, algorithm, and experimental setup. So if you try something out, be it model, be it algorithm, you have to include it in your methodology development. So then in the process of your project, you might need to do implementation and experimentation. So you have to follow structured developmental processes. You have to validate model and simulation. You have to document challenges and solutions. You have to keep backup copies of your work. This is very important. So oftentimes when you work on projects, maybe you do a simulation and it works overnight and it just went out, or your system went off, or your system crashed in the process, you don't want to start from scratch. So oftentimes as you work on your project, always make sure you have a backup. Maybe it's on your phone. Always have a folder you keep things, on your hard drive, on your friend's phone system. Always have backup in case things happen in life. You can lose your system can get formatted. You don't want to be back to square one. And oftentimes the conversation of the lecture and everything, you need to put all of that in a backup folder that you can use subsequently. So another thing that I want to talk about is data analysis and results. So you have to think about, like, how do you intend to present your results? Do you want to use graph? Do you want to use table? Do you want to use, what do you want to use? You have to make sure that your result looks like the next big thing. One thing about project is, like, the project is not that complex, but you have to present your result like you are the next big thing that you are selling. So you have to present your result clearly using tables and figures. You have to compare results with expectation or literature. You have to discuss accuracy, limitations, and errors of your project, and you have to avoid manipulating data. What people do sometimes is, like, once they get values for two input, they just manipulate it. That is not the right way to do project. You have to make sure that all results are gotten the right way, and that's a way in which your results can be a good one. Report writing tips: you have to follow the departmental guidelines strictly. You have to maintain structure and flow. Use proper technical language. You have to know the technical language of your field, not just I was thinking. No, no. You have to put something in a way that it looks like you understand, you have a mastery of the field in which you are doing the project on. You have to proofread multiple times to make sure that you are not making grammatical errors. If avoid AI using to writing your report, because it's going to be detected and it's going to belittle whatever you've done in your work. Presentation and defense. Another thing that is also important, I'm very good with presentation and defense, and I'll share some tips that I normally use, especially for good presentation. So you have to understand your project deeply, you have to prepare concise slides, you have to practice explaining to non-experts. Oftentimes I explain to my mom about what I'm trying to do, and she asks questions, and I'm able to get the overview of the project from a non-technical standpoint, and you'll be able to know what you are missing and the assumption you are making about your project. You have to also anticipate questions from your supervisors, from your lecturers. Another thing I want to say, which is important, is, like, if for example you are presenting to a large audience and you guys are a group project, make sure that those people that don't know the project so well should be the ones to introduce the project. Once they introduce the project, they to be the one talking, and oftentimes once they talk several times and it's time for the lecturers to ask you questions, they will want people that have not talked to be the one to answer the questions. So oftentimes when they throw a technical question and you have, let's say, 3 or 4 people that are well savvy about the project, even more than those that have talked, to take the questions, the answers is going to be very good and it's going to boost the overall performance of your group presentation of the final year project. So don't make sure that because I know everything, I should be the one talking. Yes, after you've talked, oftentimes they will say the next person should talk. And if they ask the person a now technical question and they cannot answer, it's going to affect your overall performance as a group. So group defense and presentation is a joint effort, and oftentimes you have to make sure that the non-technical people or not so savvy people about the project should lead the project, and those that are not so good should be the ones that are on backup to take questions and do any technical conversation that has to do with the project. Common mistakes to avoid, like, basically what we'll be talking about is poor time management, avoid plagiarism, ignoring supervisor feedback, overcomplicating the project. Oftentimes project never ends. If you do a project today, there's going to be advancement of it tomorrow. So you don't try to make sure that it must look like the next AI. No. Sometimes you just have to figure out what is smallest base model that you can do to justify the topic and to make sure that you get what you need to do in the project. Once you are done with that, you can leave it. After your final year project, you can always take on the project, improve it several times. So don't overcomplicate the project in a way of trying to say, I want the project to be very, very big. So ethics and academic integrity is very, very important because final year projects, oftentimes you are going to be presenting it to academic scholars. They are going to be writing research projects on it, research papers, making publications. So you always need to cite your source. You have to avoid falsifying data. You have to respect intellectual property. If you copied somebody's work, you have to state it that I copied this somewhere, and you have to maintain professionalism. So professionalism is also very, very important when you're dealing with projects, when you're working with non-technical people, maybe in the lab, or maybe permission, maybe the school management, or maybe external bodies that you are working with to be able to achieve your project. You have to maintain professionalism with them. So in the essence of the project, so after the end of the project, you will be able to gain technical competence, research and analytical skills, communication skills, and project management experience, because all of these things together are the lifelong lessons from handling a final year project. So in conclusion, when you are doing a project, you have to stay consistent and disciplined. You need to know where you are stuck, and you must ask for help as quick as possible. That doesn't mean you are not good, but sometimes you just don't know how to connect this thing. Ask the supervisor, find somebody in your class, go online, ask for help early, and bail yourself out as early as possible. You have to learn from your failures. What am I good at? What did I fail at, and how can I improve on it? Sometimes you go and see your supervisor and you say your manners or your approach is not good enough. You have to learn from it and improve drastically in as quick as possible so that you can finish your project in due time. And lastly, which is my favorite part of this, is like you have to figure out a way to enjoy the process. It's very tasking, it's very demanding, but you have to pick something and you have to put your mind into it and you have to enjoy the process all through. And with all of that, if you put all that effort into your project, you are going to achieve all the aforementioned values and skills, and you are still going to enjoy the process, and you'll be able to talk more in depth about the project going forward. And I think all of this, this is my conclusion about what you need to know about handling your final year project as an undergraduate student. Thank you, and I'll take questions and any other discussion that we might need.
Thank you so much, sir. So, first of all,